The Polish military and law enforcement service pistol Vis 100 is finally in the US as the M1. It's got some slight tweaks to it for the commercial market, but I think we're positive. Coming up, we'll take a look at what's in the box. We'll flip through the manual some, do some trigger talk, of course show you how to field strip, check chamber support, and tell you what we'll do in the range video, all coming up next on GBGuns. This is a pistol that I was excited to get my hands on, been waiting quite some time for, because it's different. It's a service pistol, and it's from Fabryka Broni. Sorry to my Polak friends if I mispronounced that there. But the FB Radom facility, it's a military service gun, something that you don't get to see a lot of, at least modern stuff, in the US. And I just like to play with things that are different. All metal construction, hammer-fired double-action, single-action. They're brought in by Arms of America. This one we got from Atlantic Firearms, and so we got a cool decal pack, FP Radom, Atlantic Firearms, some others in there that are pretty neat. Use zip tie as a chamber flag. Yes, I've already been playing with this. As soon as I got it home, I spent some time just getting familiar with it. We have a certificate from FP Radom as well as manual, a different backstrap that we'll go over, the optics mounting plates, several of them, metal plates, as well as some different floor plates for the magazines. We get a second 17-round magazine. Now these are 15-round magazines with a +2 extension on them from the factory. You'll see that as I get the other one out of the bag. That's what the other floor plates are for if you want to go flush. Up top we've got a polymer jag and a metal cleaning brush, as in metal rod, which is nice, a little step above, and the pistol. Let's take a look at the manual. Now, aside from the manual, you do get the warranty card, which is a sheet of paper, all in English, which is nice, but it is pretty cool to have something stamped and a piece of documentation from a famous military firearms producing facility. The manual itself, also in English, which is nice because I don't read any Polish. Very limited on images, but also very detailed in information. The language and the way things are described in here is kind of fun. Some of you may know that I previously served as a cryptologic linguist for a few different languages, and that taught me to sort of appreciate and understand different ways of expressing things. And while this doesn't read like something Google translated, it definitely does read with a different air and different feel to firearms than your standard US English manual, so that's kind of fun. We've got renderings used instead of photos. Those are nice because they allow unnatural highlights, as you can see here, color coding and things to make it easier to understand stuff. I did not see any crazy restrictions or things that you necessarily need to be aware of. It does mention that ammunition should be CIP or SAMI. I'm going to take that to mean limited plus P is okay, although with a barrel of this length, I don't think we need to worry about that. And now we can take a look at the pistol. I'm willing to bet that some of you are unfamiliar with this thing. There's not a lot out there. There's some shallow dive coverage on it, but not a whole lot, so I don't have a whole lot of information myself, other than the fact that it is the result of Poland wanting to update their service pistol. There was a project in the early 2000s that was somewhat accepted, and development continued, and then just a few years ago the Vis 100 became the new military and law enforcement service pistol in Poland, and that's this guy. Looking at it, it's got some interesting shape to it. Something about it feels odd. It's very thin, and then kind of a long stock, long barrel for how thin it is. And I think that's what makes it pop out as a visual oddity. Also, you don't see a lot of all-metal pistols anymore, especially DASA with a decocker. If you're unfamiliar with what that means, first special clear, is that we do not have a safety here. We just have a decocker. All controls are ambidextrous, which is nice. The decocker position for me ends up hitting my knuckle on the other side. I think the left hand one Yep, does the same because the lever's even bigger on that side. But what that does is your first shot is double action. We might as well jump into trigger talk a little early this time. Substantial weight. It kind of has a stage right here at the end before it breaks. And then when the pistol cycles, all subsequent shots are going to be single action that have a duty level reset length. Still have some take up here to the wall, which makes it predictable, and break. The weight and feel, in my opinion, is not, it's certainly not a competition gun, not a fancy gun, but very appropriate for duty use. You've got enough weight there that shots have to be deliberate and intentional. And of course, on your double action, you want double action to be heavier because you don't need things bumping the trigger to cause the pistol to go off. So not only do you have good weight, but you also have that little wall back there. So very appropriate duty pistol, which is what it's intended for. Now let's get back to our regular review format. Starting off with, is it magazine release or ejection? Turn the pistol upside down, slide lock back, and you see that pop there? It is ejecting. It's giving a positive force to kick that magazine out, which should make mag changes very easy to do, especially since we have a metal magazine inside a metal stock, meaning that we're not going to have friction build up there like you do on polymer. Also, these +2 base plates have a little divot to be able to reach in there. Sorry about the background noise. Tactic Kitty Jr. is investigating some of the studio. But that seems nice. The magazines are proprietary. The gun comes with 2. Currently, it's a little difficult to find more, other than some 10 rounders that Atlantic Firearms has. I have a feeling this pistol is going to be kind of one of those collector's obscure objects of desire more than a mainstream pistol, but I'm okay with that because I like this stuff. It's a little different. Alright, we'll check our slide lock and release on the other side. Works and works, which is excellent, and the decocker works on both sides. The magazine release is interesting in that you're pushing rear and you'll watch it flare out to the front. Because the button is well behind, there you go, well behind where the actual catch is. To demo real quick for left-handers or right-handers like me, like to use a middle finger, works just fine on this side as well. Alright, so coming up to the front, we have a guide rod that juts out a little bit and kind of an interesting cut here and a slight bolt to it. Barrel locks in good. We have vertical play and horizontal play. Could be done deliberately for reliability. Now, 2 of the modifications that I can confirm are for the commercial market versus military market are these fiber optic sights and optics cut. And as you saw inside the box, we've got a variety of metal plates for adopting optics to it, which is pretty nice. Slide serrations are not super deep, but they certainly work. Now, one thing that I've noticed with this pistol is the recoil spring is very strong, very heavy. That's probably going to lead to softer shooting because it's going to absorb a lot of energy. It may also lead to some interesting results in our What's for Dinner test. Plenty of rail space underneath, and that's where we have our import mark, nice and discreet, Arms of America. The trigger guard, nice and large. It does have a flat enough spot for those that like to put support finger forward, though there is no traction there. And a good radius underneath here, nothing dramatic. But I did notice that because of this angle here, it sort of works like a double undercut in permitting the hand to get up high. Now when I do that, I end up without a spot to rest my thumb, since this is a smooth aluminum here. But whatever, it is what it is. Texturing on the front strap is very nice and is part of the aluminum machined in. You've got resistance for both lateral and vertical movement. The polymer grips are wraparound, and an interesting note that the guy at the gun shop had is we've got a very, very small magazine well. Like, the whole gun feels very thin, and the polymer pluses it up to it. There's also a lanyard loop down there, probably a military contract requirement, Texturing on here is fairly smooth. There are some little dimples and these horizontal lines on the backstrap, which I greatly appreciate. That's what you really want to hold against recoil. The slide to frame fit in the rear is very tight, and there's a look at our sight picture. Red, green, red. I think if it were up to me, personal choice, I would keep a fiber optic front and go black rear. However, you don't always get to choose, and that's a personal preference anyways. We will try swapping out these grips to see how the other one feels. Visually they look very similar, so I'm not sure what the difference is going to be. Coming around the right side of the gun, as I pointed out earlier, all three controls fully ambidextrous. It's just it's an interesting experience holding. It feels very tall. You notice that we're not reaching up very high beneath the slide here. In fact, as high as I can get my hand, I've still got probably 3/4 of an inch before I'd have any risk of slide bite. While that may seem goofy and not tactical by modern American standards, if you think about cold weather in Poland and wearing potentially big, thick gloves while on duty, that allows plenty of room for glove fluff to get up there and not get snagged in the slide. So that could be a reason. I don't know. I'm just thinking here. As far as hand fit and reach, now keep in mind I wear XXL gloves, so I've got rather large hands. I'm getting about 2.5 fingers on the frame, which is a little bit less than you'd expect for a 17-round gun. Keep in mind though, these mags are originally 15 rounders. It's a +2 on there. So for a 15-round gun, typically your compact size, this is about standard grip. Trigger reach, I can easily overreach on the single action. I can use my knuckle. Controls are in reach as long as I clear my knuckle from the other side of that decocker, and the double action fits my finger quite nicely. Slide release easily within reach, mag release easily within reach. Let me swap the grips and we'll see what the other one does. Swapping those panels is something I have to do off camera because YouTube thinks that is gunsmithing. And go ahead and add that to the list of things Graham doesn't want to do a bunch on this pistol. Swapping out these grip panels was not quite as, well, let's just say it's different. You've got 2 screws, one on each side. You've got to trap the trigger all the way to the rear and push the magazine release as far as it can go, which really requires the second hand. And then with your third hand, you slide down the panel before it releases and comes off. But I've got the larger panel on, and you can see it's filled out here nicely, and has actually made this pistol feel a lot more like a full-size duty gun to me. The original included grip panels were so slim that it was weird. It was kind of a SIG 365X macro feeling. Too small for the size of the gun, if you get what I mean. But it's filling out back here very nicely, which makes it much more comfortable for me. It has changed the grip angle a little bit. The previous ones I would say were 1911-ish, but not quite. This is Glock-ish, but not quite. Hard for me to say, but it feels more comfortable. It's just not a quick and easy process, if you will. There's a lot of mechanism and lever to deal with inside there. So that fits. I can still reach everything just fine. My trigger reach on the double action has remained the same. On the single action, I can still reach over. So no real changes through here. It just kind of changes how it fills the hand. Next, we'll field strip the Vis 100M and take a look inside the gun. Field stripping, however, is nicely simplified. We're going to check for clear and then rotate this lever down. It's quite stiff, and that releases the slide. No need to pull the trigger, which is a nice touch. Get a look at the construction inside here. We've got aluminum with some steel inserts, big beefy ejector, and everything fairly clean. Inside of our slide, another beefy piece that drop safety there, and you can see that quite a bit of metal has been removed to reduce slide mass. As far as the optics plates, the list of compatible sights is in the manual. I will post that in the article as well as all the specs over on gbgunsdepot.com. This recoil assembly is also interesting. I'm not sure the purpose of this rear sleeve here other than potentially adding mass. It does have some heft to it. Tap down on a barrel to pull it out, and now we can see there, big old beefy screw for the front sight post. Very clean machining. Very nice finish on this whole thing as well. Our barrel does have a little bit of a target crown. And next we'll check for chamber fitment. Doing that using some Liberty Ammunition Civil Defense. The nickel plating is nice for popping in and out of these chambers. What we're going to do is drop in and listen for a plunk, like that. We'll make sure the round can still rotate freely, and then we're going to take a look to see how much of the brass beyond that shoulder there is exposed. Maybe a touch underneath of the feed ramp as normal, but this round sits nice and deep. That's good chamber support. That's important should you have an accidental overpressure round or other type of malfunction. Brass is softer than steel, and so if pressure has to get out some way, it's going to come out the brass. Ruptured brass shoots that 35,000 pounds per square inch of pressure into the palm of the gun. Nice to have an aluminum here although the plastic grips may be the ones that give out on you should that happen, but usually it's channeled into the magazine, the steel magazine. Another plus there. I think a very safe gun for potential high pressure accidents. As I reassemble this, I'll let you know what we're going to do in the range video. You'll see our absolute cold shots, first impressions. We'll do full magazine +1 to see how the gun runs fully stuffed. That should be particularly interesting with these +2s on there. Sometimes companies don't change the springs, or the springs haven't been recalculated as far as how much force they need to have a +2 on there. We'll do our trademark What's for Dinner test, see what the gun eats, using 10 different loads, not included elsewhere in the video. Then we'll do some sights and trigger control testing using our spinner test. And I don't think I lined this up just right. We'll do practical accuracy, 5 shots from 7 yards, before giving you the concluding thoughts. I hope to have Miss Tia on this one. I think she'd be interested in this pistol. We'll see if we can get her to come out. I had the same issue before, and you see that there is no particularly hard, solid ledge there for this to rest on. It just kind of finds a spot. And I lucked out once before. Everything looks straight. Okay, that should be in the spot. I'll set the lever back up and everything is back together. Quick functions check. And everything seems to be functioning as it should be. Full report of this, of course, will be on GBGunsDepot.com. I'm curious to hear what you guys think about this. These all-metal, double-action, single-action guns are kind of a thing of the past in the US. Don't particularly know why. Polymer isn't necessarily that much lighter than aluminum. It is cheaper to make, though. And speaking of cheap, this pistol is not. It's I think another thing that's going to sort of limit it to an obscure object of desire here in the US. MSRP at the time that I'm filming this is around $1,000. They're also available in several other colors. The other colors cost more. So of course there's coating to it, but this is about as close as you can get to a current modern foreign defense pistol, which is always a fun thing to give a try to. Man, I like that larger grip. There's a little bit of plastic noise. I think it's not seated in yet, but the larger grip certainly made a difference on this thing. Thanks for watching. Thank you for years of support.